Hey everyone, it's Chris here, and guess what? In this video, we're going to talk about how to fix two of the most common Google Web Vitals issues related to Webflow hosted sites. And I'm talking about eliminate render blocking resources, and the second one is reduce unused CSS. So the reason why I wanted to put together a quick solution on how to fix these two issues is because I saw on the Webflow forums this being one of the top topics that is being discussed. Now, the main reason why we're having these two issues with Webflow hosted sites is Webflow compiles all of your style sheet in one big CSS file. And the second thing is because this CSS, this big CSS file, is being added to the head tag of your site, which obviously do impact the load time, because things like JavaScript, CSS, fonts, images, they do all impact that initial paint of your web page. So with that being said, I just wanted to show you a quick before and after. What I do have on my screen is auro.com website, and you can see indeed that we have eliminate render blocking resources, this issue right here. And the main reason is because of the Webflow hosting and this minified CSS version, which kind of impacts a lot our load time. And the second one is reduce unused CSS. That's it. Now, to give you like an after effect, I do have right here our website, theluminous.com, and as you can see, it does not have any of these two issues related to the CSS and to the render blocking resources. So being said, what is the solution here? Well, the solution, at least by the time I'm recording this video, is using Cloudflare CDN. Maybe in the future, Webflow will rethink the way they do compile all of the assets like the CSS, the JavaScript, but for now, Cloudflare is the only solution. Good. So let me actually close this incognito window. And by the way, guys, every single time, this is kind of a quick hack for me. Every single time you do a Google Lighthouse audit, make sure you do this using incognito, because your audit might be impacted by different extensions you have in a Google Chrome, or different caching cookies. So it's always better to do an incognito window. Good. So let me minify this, and below this video, in the video description, you're gonna see this Notion page. It's kind of like a written description of this tutorial, but I'm gonna use it just to guide you through. So the step number one, of course, is to get a Cloudflare account. And I'm gonna assume that you know what is Cloudflare and what is the Cloudflare CDN with all of its features. So with that being said, just head over to the Cloudflare and add your domain there. So let me show you exactly how this looks for our website, theluminous.com. So I'm inside right now my Cloudflare dashboard, and all you have to do is just click on this add site, right? You enter the domain, for example, companyacme.com, right? And you hit continue. Cloudflare will guide you through all of the steps, but basically it will automatically do the hard lifting for you. It will add the domain with all the DNS settings. So for example, if right now you're using GoDaddy and you already have all of the CNAME, all of the A record that comes with the Webflow hosting, Cloudflare will automatically migrate those DNS records for you. Now, let me go back to the websites right here on the left sidebar, because I already have my domain right here, theluminous.com. So if we're gonna go and open up the domain, and then we're gonna go to our DNS records. You can do so by clicking on this right sidebar where it says DNS records, or let me move this Loom thing over here, or you can just click on this DNS. And basically does the same stuff. It will take you to the DNS records page. Now you can see that for my domain, all the DNS are already added with the DNS settings that comes with the Webflow. So being said, we have two A records and we have one CNAME records, this one with www, which is right here. Good. So let me move back to the Notion doc and let's go to the step number 2. So the step number 2 is we need to enable DNS proxy within the Cloudflare. But the main problem is the Webflow proxy, or at least those DNS settings that comes with the Webflow, they are not working with the Cloudflare CDN. And Webflow claims that the main reason why Webflow hosting it's not working with Cloudflare proxy is because Webflow Webflow needs to generate a new SSL certificate every single month. And when your website goes through the Webflow proxy, Webflow servers, they know for what specific domain this SSL needs to be reissued. So I hope this does make sense, guys. But to be honest, we're not worried too much about this because we're not going to disable Webflow SSL. And more than that, we're going to be using Cloudflare SSL, which is way more powerful than the SSL certificate that comes with the Webflow. So being said, in the step number 2, the very first task we need to do is we need to head over to our Cloudflare DNS settings. So this page that you see on my screen, and we're going to have to replace 3 DNS records. We're going to replace 2 A records, and we're going to place 1 CNAME record. So we're going to be starting with the A name records first. So I have the very first right here, second one right here, and the CNAME is right here. If we go back to the Notion, you can see that for the very first one, we just need to change the value. So you can see this new IP address. And before you guys are going to replace, I wanted to explain from where these records come from. So basically these 3 records that you see right here. So this one ending in 229, the second one starting with 104, and the very last CNAME starting with proxy. These are all Webflow DNS settings for non-SSL websites. So the way you do get these values is if you go to your Webflow project settings, you go to the publishing in the sidebar, and then you scroll all the way to advanced publishing options. And if you toggle off enable SSL, you're going to see a new set of IP addresses that comes with the Webflow. So basically, I just did a quick favor to you guys, and I've already pasted all of the values right here. So with that being said, we're going to start with the very first one. So we're going to copy the first A record value, so this IP address. We're going to head over to the Cloudflare DNS settings, and this is the very first one. So we're going to click on Edit. And all we have to do is where it says IPv4 address, we're going to replace with our new non-SSL version, and we're going to enable proxy. So what proxy means is the connection between the Webflow and the user browser will go through the Cloudflare. The main benefit is now we can do anything we want in between, right? We can have Cloudflare do specific tasks before giving back the HTML file, before giving back the website to the user. And more than that, we also have all the advanced Cloudflare DNS features. So being said, the very first A record is changed. We did enable the proxy through the Cloudflare. So all we have to do is just click save. We're going to do the same for the second A record. So we're going to copy this IP address, go back. So this is the second one. We're going to click on edit. We're going to paste this in, enable proxy, and click save. And the final one, of course, it's our CNAME. So the CNAME is this value. We're going to copy it, head over to our Cloudflare CDN, and we're going to be looking for this one right here. And we're going to click on edit, and we're going to paste this in. And the same thing we did for the 2A record, we're going to enable DNS proxy and hit save. So now the connection to this website, or in this case to your domain, will happen through the Cloudflare CDN. Give this a couple of moments. Cloudflare CDN is quite fast when updating your DNS records. So being said, that is the very first step. Update this A records. Good. Now the second one, and by the way, if you for some reasons disabled enable SSL, make sure you enable this back. And the reason why you want to enable this back is we want our sitemap.xml file that Webflow generates, we want that file to have the HTTP version, or the HTTPS version of all of your links. If you toggle this off, all of the links, all the URLs in your sitemap will be without the SSL. So they will be like HTTPS. So make sure you enable this back. Good. Now, the very next step is the most difficult of them all, and that is to purify your CSS file. Now, what means to purify a CSS file? It basically means that you are creating a CSS file with only the classes or only the styles needed for that specific page. So if you have the home page, only the CSS file for the home page. If you have an about page, only the CSS file for the about page. Purifying means just removing unnecessary CSS files. And trust me, when you do host your website with Webflow, Webflow always add additional CSS that you never use. So that is basically why it's triggering this unused CSS issue in the Google Web Vitals. So all we have to do here is just open this tool, Purify CSS Online. I've already opened mine right here, and you're gonna see this website URL field. So what you wanna do is you wanna head over to your web page. So I'm gonna go to the unused.com, this one right here. So you copy your URL from the address bar, wherever that page is. You copy the URL, you go back to this Purify CSS Online, and you paste your URL in and hit Clean Up CSS. Now, what this tool will do is it will look on the entire page and it will remove all of the unused CSS. And you can see that basically it reduced 38% of all the CSS classes that I'm not using. Good. So once this tool purified your CSS file, all you have to do is just click on Download Combined, Purified, and Minified CSS file. Once you do so, what I do recommend you doing is when you click on Save As in your browser, make sure you save it somewhere on your computer and give this a meaningful name. So since this is the home page, I'll probably go with home-purified. So I know, let me go to the downloads. So I know this is the purified version of my home, and hit save. And that's it. Just make sure you organize all of these files and give them a meaningful name. So later on, you know exactly for what specific page this CSS was combined and purified, and also minified. So we're done with the Purify CSS Online. Now the next step, or the next task into this tab, is to basically get a Cloudflare R2 bucket. So an R2 bucket in Cloudflare is just basically a cloud drive, just like you have Google Drive, just like you have Dropbox. And the reason why we want to create one is we're going to upload all of these purified CSS files to this Cloudflare R2 bucket. And the way you do so is you navigate back to your main Cloudflare dashboard, so not your domain. And then in this sidebar, you're going to see R2 bucket. Now I already created mine. It's called Loomis. But in order to create a new bucket for you, you just click on this Create bucket. You give this a name, and once you successfully created it, you're going to be taken to like the bucket landing page or the bucket dashboard, and then you're going to see the domain right here. So you also want to connect the domain. I would recommend you connecting like a subdomain. For me, it's code.thelumious.com. For you, it can be anything you want. It can be purify.example.com, or you can also go with the code. It really doesn't matter. But what I do recommend you is host this R2 bucket under a subdomain, because you want to make sure that your CSS file is served from the same domain. So browser don't have like to connect to another domain to retrieve this, to get this CSS file. So I hope this does make sense. But once you do create your bucket, it's pretty much just like any Dropbox thing on the internet. You hit upload and you just upload all of your CSS files right here. And you can also like delete the one that you don't need. If you go to the settings for this R2 bucket, then you're gonna see that you have this custom domain, and you can connect your domain, and you can click on connect domain, and then you can specify the name of the subdomain, and Cloudflare will automatically install this R2 bucket under the subdomain that you specified. So I'm not going to lose your time, guys, here explaining how to create an R2. If you want to know how to create this bucket, just head over to the YouTube and type how to create an R2 Cloudflare bucket. It's pretty much straightforward. So I hope this does make sense. So what you want to do is you want to upload all of your purified CSS files into this R2 bucket. And the reason why you're going to see in a moment. Good. So basically we're done here. Okay. So let's move to the next part of this step. Finally, of course, is we need to add this link tag to our head tag inside the page settings. So I already have mine. I'm going to show exactly how this is working. So let me go to the Webflow project that I have right here. Let me click on designer. Good. And while the designer is loading, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this line from here, and I'm gonna open this up in my Visual Studio Code so I can show exactly how this works, guys. So let me do like plus, so it's nice zoomed in. Good. So basically what this tag means is just it defines the style sheet, so where the CSS is located. And you can see that like we have this home purified CSS, and we also have the domain. So this very first part, the subdomain, it's where you installed your R2 bucket. So for me, it was under code, and my main domain is thelumius.com. That's it. That's all we have to do. You just need to provide the URL to your file, to your purified version, like where exactly that lives. And if we go back to my website and we open up the home, you can see that I already have mine right here. Now, some of you might argue with me like, hey Chris, why do you add the CSS file in the head code? And the main reason being, guys, is everything you add right here in the head code, Webflow will not actually add in the head code. It will add as the very first line in your body opening tag. And just to prove that I'm not wrong, let me open up this incognito window and let me go to the elements. And as you can see, the CSS file, this purified, it's not added right here. Yeah, it's not added right here. It's actually added in the very first line. So it's right here in the very first line of my body opening tab. So I don't know why Webflow is doing this, but it's kind of good because while this CSS file is really important for us, it's a critical CSS file. We're going to treat it as a non-critical. We just want to make sure that we load the HTML first with all the sections, with everything, and then we load the CSS. And trust me, if you host your website with Cloudflare, it's gonna be as fast as possible. So Cloudflare CDN, it's really fast when it comes to serving assets. So being said, just keep that in mind that for some reasons, Webflow will not add the code you add in the head in actually the head. It will add as the very first line in your body opening tag. So I hope this does make sense, guys. Good. So once you do add your link to the purified version in the head, you just click save and you publish your changes. At this point, the step number 3 is done. So let's see. One of the questions you might ask is, hey Chris, how about the CMS driven pages? Well, for CMS driven pages, you do exactly the same thing. You open up one of your CMS driven pages, like a blog template page, and you copy one of your blog post URL and you paste it right here. So it can be something like /blog, or better say /post slug, and you paste this in and you click on clean up CSS because, well, in Webflow, you always have a template page for a CMS item. Every single CMS item page will look the same because it's a template. So if you minify or if you purify one post page or one CMS item page, it will automatically be applied for all of the CMS driven pages. So I hope this does make sense. And it works for blogs, for roadmaps, or whatever type of CMS you're having. Good. So I hope this does make sense. Right. Now, the next step, which is the most important of them all, and that is to create a new Cloudflare worker. Now, a Cloudflare worker is basically just a piece of code that runs on the Cloudflare server, or better say Cloudflare Edge. That's how they call it. And all this code does, it just removes the Webflow CSS file. Okay, that's literally all it does. And you can see, like, even right here, if you're a developer and you know how to look on the code, you're going to see that all we do is we remove the head tag. We're looking for that Webflow CSS file, and we give back the new head tag without the CSS file. So this is all it does. So in order to make this work, just click on copy here, copy this entire code. You don't have to apply any changes whatsoever. Just click copy on this Notion button. And then we're going to head over to the Cloudflare, and we need to go back to the Cloudflare dashboard. Yeah, so I'm going to click on the Cloudflare logo, and then you're going to see, let me move myself over here. And then what you're going to see is you're going to see workers and pages on this sidebar. So we're going to click on workers and pages. And if you don't have any Cloudflare worker yet, you're going to see this blue button saying create worker. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to click create worker, and we're going to name it, I don't know, Webflow -fix. Make sure you use a lowercase and you replace spaces with dashes. And then we're going to click deploy to deploy this new worker. And guys, again, this worker is just a script that runs on the Webflow, on the Cloudflare server. And then we're going to click on edit code. We don't want to configure our worker yet. We just want to paste the code. So we're going to click on edit code. And we're just going to paste this in. So this is the entire code here. Yeah, you just paste this in. And finally, we're going to click on save and deploy. And click one more time in this pop-up. So what Cloudflare will do is it will deploy this worker on the server. So now it's deployed. And finally, we want to specify to Cloudflare on what specific domains we want this worker to do its job. So once you hit back, you're going to head over to the worker dashboard. We're going to click on triggers right here. And then where it says routes, we're going to click on this blue button, add route. Now, I would highly recommend you guys adding the both versions of your domain with and without the www. So I'm going to add first the www version. And for the zone, I'm going to select my domain, unused.com. For you, obviously, it's going to be your very own domain. And hit add route. And now I'm going to do one more time, but this time without the W. So this one right here. And just so you know, /* it means a wildcard. So basically any page that I'm having on my main domain. And for the zone, I'm going to select the unused.com and hit add route. So now I have both routes added right here. The worker, it's already working. So that's it. At this point, you can open up a new incognito window. You can open up your page, do a quick Google Lighthouse audit, and you're not going to see this problem anymore. You're not going to see reduce unused CSS, and you're not going to see eliminate render blocking resources. At this point, it's fully fixed. Now, one caveat with this approach is that right now, the way the connection will happen is the browser will have to connect to the Cloudflare, but Cloudflare will have to connect to the Webflow and then give back the HTML. And one of the main problem is that it will take time for the main HTML file to load. So what I do highly recommend you guys is enable Cloudflare caching, okay? Cloudflare hosting, it's already fast. It's not going to have a huge impact on your site speed. But if you want to add additional site speed, if you want to make it even more faster, I highly recommend you caching everything inside your Cloudflare. And the way you do this is you just head over to your main domain. So you go to websites, you click on your domain. And from here, you go to the page rules. So let's see, you click on rules. And you click on page rules. And from the page rules, you click on create page rule. You define the URL. So keep in mind, you want to do this for the version with and without the www. So I'm going to do with the www version. And from the settings, you click on this drop down and you type cache. And you select cache level, and from the cache level setting, you select cache everything and click on save and deploy page rules. And you do the same, obviously, for the version without the www. What this means is Cloudflare will cache everything. So basically, you will have a version of that web page on the Cloudflare CDN network. So now just imagine how fast your web page will load. Now, for all of you beginners, I highly recommend using cache everything. But if you're already with Cloudflare and you know that, hey, I want to cache only the CSS or I only want to cache the HTML, just cache the HTML only and do not create any page rules right here. But if you're a beginner, I highly recommend you caching everything and always have like a version of your web page on the Cloudflare hosting. So I hope this makes sense. Now, finally, of course, head over to the SSL TLS, and if you click on the overview, make sure you have full. Now, what this means is now the connection between the Cloudflare, the Webflow, and the user browser will be fully encrypted. So you're not going to have links without the HTTPS. Everything will be full encrypted. So that is one thing you need to set up. And if you do decide to go with the Cloudflare paid features, well, you can just go to the speed right here and you can enable a couple of the speed optimization features that come with the Cloudflare. So being said, guys, that is literally everything. I know it's been like 24 minutes into this tutorial, but I wanted to explain you everything, how this Cloudflare is working, how to set up Cloudflare, and what are the caveats of this solution. Now, of course, every single time you're gonna apply a change to your website, you will need, if this is like a CSS change where you created like a new page, you'll need to regenerate the purified version. It's a manual process, but if you're a developer, of course you can expand the worker code. The reason why we don't want it to include an auto purified version is because just imagine how long it would take for the Cloudflare to connect to an API, do this purify thing, give back the CSS. So you're like losing a lot of milliseconds here, and maybe even like seconds of load time. So while this is manual, you're serving an already purified version. So this worker don't need to do all of this computation and lose the site speed. So I hope this does make sense. But yeah, you'll just have to re-purify everything when you apply a style change. And if you cache everything, just make sure you purge the cache. If you apply a change to a specific page, you can only purge on that specific page, but if you applied like a site-wide change, just purge everything. And from there, it will take Cloudflare a couple of minutes to reindex everything, to recache everything, and you should be good to go. Now, at this point, the tutorial, it's done, but if you can give me 5 more minutes, I wanted to address a couple of FAQs from this Notion page. So the very first one is this the only solution to fix these two issues? Obviously not. You can take a piece of paper and you can write every possible CSS class that you're using on your website and just only use those that you really need. Now, obviously, this would not fully remove this solution, because keep in mind, you are not actually removing the Webflow generated CSS file. So you'll always have these problems, but they're not going to be in red. Yeah. So if we go back to my incognito window, let me see. Is the second one. So being said, you're still going to have reduce unused CSS and eliminate render blocking resources, but they will not be as an issue. They'll more be like a warning, like in orange color. Okay, so they will not impact that much the load time, but you're still going to have these two issues right here. Okay, so unfortunately, the Cloudflare solution is the only solution, at least for now, unless Webflow changes the way it compiles the CSS file, and not only the CSS, but also the JavaScript and all the assets. Next one, do I need to update the purified CSS? Again, you only need to update the purified version if you apply significant CSS style changes, that's it. If you change the text, you don't have to re-purify your CSS file. Next one is why your Cloudflare worker does not come with auto purify. I've already explained to you guys that the main reason why we did not build an auto purify inside this worker is it will just take a considerable amount of time for the worker to computate, to purify everything, which will impact your site speed. Now, this solution is to make your site load faster, not to make it bloated, right? So I know it sucks because you manually have to purify all of these, but if you're a developer, if you know there's a better solution, feel free to copy and modify the worker code that we have provided. Good. Next one is, does Cloudflare automatically handle the SSL certificate? Yes, it does automatically handles only if you enable full SSL encryption that you just saw in the video. The very next FAQ is, how about CMS collection pages? So for CMS collection pages, guys, just do the same thing, right? You just go right here, you paste one of your CMS item page here, you click on clean up CSS, and you download the CSS version. Because again, when you create a new CMS collection, Webflow will always generate a template page. So all you have to do is add this link tag inside your CMS template page. That's it. All right, so let me go back to the Notion. And the final question is, I just audited your site and it's not using this solution. Why? So the main reason why our website, thelumius.com, it's not using this solution is because, well, we're not doing any marketing efforts. We're not doing SEO. We're not doing paid ads. We're not doing anything that would be impacted by these two issues. So that's why we're not that worried. But maybe you do have a client that it's worried about the site speed. Maybe they're losing money because their landing page is loading maybe in 10 seconds just because of these two issues. So obviously, while we're not using this solution for us personally, because we're still experimenting with different clonables for you guys, for different solutions, we are using this for our clients. So we do have a couple of websites we've built that do use this solution, and it never failed. So being said, I do hope this does make sense. If you're a Webflow developer and you have a client that is looking for removing these two issues, you can definitely use this solution. So being said, that is all, guys. If you're gonna have any questions, make sure to leave your comments under this YouTube video, right? And I'm gonna happy to answer them all. Until next time, speak soon. Bye-bye.